first question that I have to you is, you're amongst the main shapers of the maqasid debate in the world right now. Can you please explain to us what exactly is the meaning of Maqāṣid al Sharīah?
Well, thank you very much. Maqāṣid al Sharīah is a science of a long heritage, not just a 20th century phenomenon. And there are people who worked on the theory and the application of Maqāṣid al Sharīah all along in the history, intellectual history of Islam. Maqsid or maqsad is purpose, objective, intent, principle, in general be Zweck, something that has to do with the end of the rules and the teachings of Islam. These ends are about the question of why, which is a very important question. We often leave the why question to philosophers to ask and work on, but common people don't usually ask why. We, in the Maqāṣid, scholars realize that Muslims need to ask why, and need to learn why, in order to understand the wisdoms behind the rules that they learn, behind even the articles of faith that they learn. Why am I learning these things about my life or the afterlife, or about God, about what is right and what is wrong, about the ethical edicts? And the question of why opens a lot of important doors for the Islamic thought and the Islamic law. One of them is the ability of that law to be flexible enough to address the human condition and human needs in different cultures, in different circumstances, different environments. Because without asking why, we don't get to the wisdom, and without getting to the wisdom, we cannot project the rule from the way it was applied or is applied even in the Arab world, or in Arabia, or in India, or Africa, where Islam has been around for hundreds of years, to where the rule applies now, or how it applies now in Europe, or in America, or other countries that are trying to define their own way of living Islam and practicing Islam. And the question of why and its answer is very important as well in explaining Islam to others. When people ask about Islam, they ask why. Like, why do you do that? Why don't you drink? Why don't you, like, so the answer of why don't you drink cannot be an answer of I'm a believer and it's forbidden for us to drink. It has to be tied to, let's say, the preservation of mind, which is one of the maqasid, one of the purposes, the preservation of intellect, and that the preservation of sobriety and awareness and all of that is a major teaching of Islam, that it's guarding with all sorts of rules that makes a distance between Muslim and a Muslim and getting drunk or losing their consciousness in any way, etc. So I think it's very important also in presenting Islam to others. It's also very important in order to understand when the rule applies and when it does not apply. Because if I know the why, it's like the traffic light. If I take the traffic light as it is, this is red means stop and green means go, I will never know when I should break the red light. But in certain cases, if the wisdom of the red light is the safety of the people, sometimes I have somebody with a heart attack, for example, in an ambulance. The ambulance has to break the light because that's the safety. It's the same principle, which is the life and the preservation of the life of that person. And therefore, it's important to know why, so that when the rule does not apply in some circumstances, then we know how to live in the new circumstances. Islam is a rational religion. The question of why keeps the rationality and the humanity in the Islamic understanding. And Islam, as a way of life, as an ethical way of life, is about certain principles. And it's another important aspect of why studying maqasid. And these principles are supposed to be the universals that control our understanding of the particulars. The particulars, the opinions, the views, the edicts, the fatwas, are not supposed to contradict with the universal principles. Ibn al-Qayyim, one of the great scholars of Islam, has a saying in which he says, Sharia is about justice and about wisdom and common good and mercy. So any rule, any opinion that takes Sharia from being about justice to being about injustice is a rule that does not belong to the Sharia. From being about mercy to being about cruelty is a rule that does not belong to the Sharia. So it's very important to understand, so that if somebody comes up with an opinion that contradicts with rights or justice or mercy, then we know how to say that no, this is an Islamic opinion, but no, it is not the correct opinion, because the principles are supposed to be reigning over the particular.